We're going to start talking about defensive position groups at Michigan. And Scar, you're going to rank some of the defensive position groups. So what are we talking about? Defensive line, linebackers,
edge,
safeties and corners. Oh, edge.
I guess I just broke them up into 4 groups. I've got
okay.
DT, interior D-line, edge, the outside guys, inside linebackers, and then I had the secondary as a whole. So I'll start with I'm going to start with the defensive tackle group, the inside defensive tackle group. Last year, I said at this time of year that we would have the best in the Big Ten with Mozzie and Jenkins, and we did. I believe we did have the best interior defensive line in the Big Ten. This year, I think our first 2, I don't know that they're going to be the best. We will be top 3. See how they play. Graham and Jenkins will be right there, with the top 3 in the Big Ten. We'll see what kind of year they have. I don't know if Graham is, as good as Mozzie had an outstanding year. Mozzie was outstanding, but I think those 2 could very well end up being the best 2. But I think as a group, we'll be just as good. There's 4 or 5 good players in there. So I have the defensive interior line, first 2 not as good, but as a group just as good. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, if they perform like they did last year, Michigan's defense is really good. Even if you take out the 51 points that they gave up in the Fiesta Bowl, they were, heading into the college football playoff, a top 5 defense in the country. You start looking at the rankings, I think Minnesota and Wisconsin just in the Big Ten and Big Ten games actually gave up fewer points than Michigan. But nationally, when you take all of the games in there, they're bona fide top 10 defense. And, look, they were undefeated last year, so there are going to be a lot of things, that went well. But, Mozzie was an excellent player, so having to take up for him. But the way that, that Graham came in and the way that Jenkins, being able to come back there, and they've got a few other guys in there, that's good news, Scar.
Yeah, like Coach Mint, and I understand this. I totally understand his point. He says the 2 interior guys for the Michigan defense are the tip of the spear, is the term he used. The tip of the spear. They got to be good in there to keep those linebackers free, to do the things they want to do. So we will be every bit as good as a whole. Let's see how Graham does to see if he's as good as Mozzie. I have the edge. Our edge group, I think, is going to be better. I think our edge group could very well be right in there with the Hutchinson, Ajabo, as they're going to be top 3 in the Big Ten. You got 4 really good players. We could lose one of them, and there's a 5th guy that has shown, he can really step up. So I have the edge group as a group. The first 2 guys better than last year. The starters better than last year, and I have the group better than last year. So that's what I have with the edge. Any thoughts? With McGregor and Harrell and Stewart and more, that's as good a group that you're going to see in the Big Ten. So I have them 1 through top 3 at worst.
Yeah, I'm with you. Last year they were a very impressive group. The Okie in flashes was pretty impressive, and then really Mike Morris throughout the year. You can make a case, he was the leader overall of the defense, and they may have missed him late in the season when he got a little bit banged up. But I do think what you're saying, it looks like, McGregor's ready to come on. I think Harrell is the most underappreciated player in the Big Ten, certainly at Michigan. He doesn't get talked up when you start saying, hey, who are the stars of this Michigan team? I think Jalen Harrell is one of those guys. So I'm with you on that. And just what, we watched the tape and the spring game, Josiah Stewart, he looks like, Okie, what he was able to run. Stewart looks like, I don't know how many plays he's going to be in there, but he looks like he's going to be impactful in terms of getting to and rushing the quarterback. I would also mention, and this is a shout out to you, Scar, from watching so much of that spring film, Keyshawn Bennett could be a factor in there. Not saying that some of the other guys that you haven't mentioned, but Bennett flashed. It's definitely just watching the tape of the spring game, you could see where he'd be. If he's not playing, he's pushing the.
Danny, a lot, when we get into my surprise guys. A
Mhm.
lot of that was going to depend on injuries, and actually Bennett is a guy that we could add to that surprise guy. And I hate to say it like this though, but some of these surprises are going to depend on getting an opportunity, and some of it might be if some guys get banged up. Now,
Sure.
we've got a Scott believes McGregor could be an All-American. I just know as a former player, my going from that third year to fourth year, big improvement. I look at Moore; he's going to improve tremendously. McGregor's going to he's better. He's going to be smarter. He's going to be better. And same with Harrell. They're just a year older, a year smarter. All them little things that maybe fooled you as a third and fourth year guy, they're not going to get fooled. They're a year older, a year smarter, a year bigger, a year stronger. So those guys are all bigger, better, and so I'm really fired up about that group.
I am too, Scar. And if I could add on, watching Harrell, you'd see him against the run, not necessarily, getting to the quarterback, but if you can make plays, although he did get to the quarterback a few times, more snaps, it seems to me that he could be a star. And McGregor, I don't even know if he has to get home. I don't know if I've seen another player where when he's rushing has the timing where whether he's jumping up and getting into the quarterback's face or whether he's just able to bat down the balls. They pass breakups from a defensive end.
He's a big kid, man. He's every bit of 6'6". I'm 6'5". I talk to the kid. He's going to knock some passes down. So that group, I'm really fired up about that group. And I think Michigan people should be fired up about that group. I think the group that is going to have improved the most from last year is our inside linebacker group. Junior, year older. Okay, Barrett, year older in the system. Barrett was in the Don Brown deal. He was in this McDonald mentor system now. A year older, a year better, a year bigger, stronger, and we got more depth there though. We got 4 or 5 guys. We got so much more depth. The weakness of that position last year was we didn't have enough depth. We ended up having freshmen playing that weren't ready to play, and I think that group will be. I got them top 1, 2, or 3 in the Big Ten. That's what I got them because I think junior's as good as any of them. And then I think Rolder and what's the other kid?
Hausman.
Of course, Hausman's. Hausman's. We did a great job picking him up.
Michael Barrett.
Barrett. And I'm thinking of the last kid. What's his name? Danny, the other young linebacker. I'm drawing a blank. Pollard. Pollard is another kid.
Anyway, Pollard. Okay.
Both those guys, Rolder and Pollard, played as freshmen and they weren't ready. They're going to be ready now. So we got good depth at that position. I think that group is going to be the most improved of the group position groups from last year because of the depth, because they're all a year older. We basically got everybody back. So they shouldn't have to play tired. I hope Mentor rotates those guys. For some reason, that's the only position group they didn't rotate as much like D-line and edge guys and secondary guys. I hope they rotate those guys so they don't play tired. Any thoughts on that position group?
Yeah, well, if it wasn't for Harold being the most underappreciated player in the Big Ten and by Michigan fans, I do think if it's one of those categories, the most underappreciated player by Michigan fans last year, I thought it was Blake Corum. You've talked with non-Michigan fans, college football fans across the country, and they'd be like, Blake Corum is awesome. He's a great player. But Michigan fans seem, not that they were down on him, they just didn't give him, I think the hype that, so that was a little bit of a surprise. I think Colson is in that category. I think it was one highlight against Maryland where he kind of got caught up in the wash or whatever it was. And, it looked like that was the one highlight they kept playing for Maryland. So people were like, Junior Colson's not all that good. I don't know. I think it's that. Junior Colson's a heck of a player. He's got a lot of experience, and I do think he's an underrated player by Michigan fans. Yeah, so
we ask a lot of our inside linebackers, people that look at things and want to say, you get caught. It's hard. Inside linebacker is – I didn't realize how difficult that position was until I started coaching it. I didn't understand it. I played on the edge, and I didn't know how tough that was. And it's hard because bullets are coming at you from all angles. You're in the middle there. You got guys blocking you from here. And if you react a split second late, you're blocked. So I got a lot more respect for that position. I have so I have them as the most improved for our position group. Our secondary will be, I got them 1 through 3 again, and I think they're going to be better. I got the second because Johnson's now he's got a year older. We've got 2 good-looking corners competing there at the opposite corner, and Moore and Sanistrel a year older, year better. So I hate to keep sounding like we're going to, every position group is better, but other than the DT group, but I really believe that. That's why I think our defense is going to be overall better. So it's overall secondary, hell of a lot of depth. Key starters are all year older, year better, and that's how I see the secondary.
Yeah, and I think the scheme-wise, they went from McDonald, we saw that to Minter, and the surprise is that there wasn't any drop off. You don't know when you have a different coordinator, but statistically, they had more sacks and they had more TFLs on last year's team. And so we know about the losses of Mozzie on the front line. And then when you just start working back, talk about Mike Morris. And then, you do have DJ Turner, and even Jaimon Green, but the players, obviously, Will Johnson got in there and was a bona fide starter at the end of the year, and it's just that one corner spot. And then, meanwhile, RJ Moten left, but the safeties that they have on this team, and we don't know about those guys behind. Whether it's going to be Zeke Berry or Keon Sabb. I think that's an exciting part with Michigan. They've got the bona fide starters, but I think that safety, there's some unknown guys there that could emerge and you don't know about. We didn't mention Agent Zero, who just came over and looked like a seasoned veteran at the corner. I think a lot of bullets are flying when you're at the slot, as well. A lot of things going on. I would think Sainristil would even be better this year.
Yeah, he was outstanding. Jim and him made the great decision to move him to defense. Let me just say this. I think that McDonald had a tougher task than Minter because he had to totally blow up that defense, and he did a great job. And Minter replaced McDonald, and he basically the same foundation scheme was there set, but Minter does a few things a little different. There's a few little schematic, which is good because I think the offensive coaches in the Big Ten, they have to reevaluate Minter. He was different than McDonald. From a tendency, the subtleness and differences in their scheme. But, so that's just something to throw out there.
All right, let's get through some of the feedback. Don's talking about getting to the quarterback more without blitzing.
Well, that's the thing you hope to do. You always like to just get there with 4. Because then you put anytime you have to bring more than 4 or 5 guys, you put your secondary in a bind. So hopefully, with Stewart, McGregor, and Moore, and Jenkins at the 3, if we can get pressure from Graham, you want to get your pressure without having to bring extra people. But sometimes you can just fake bringing extra people, and that's the thing Minter does a lot of. Or he simply brings 4 from different guys. So, we want to be able to get pressure with 4 guys without compromising coverage. So I would say to the answer to that question, I do think with the edge DT type of talent we have, they're going to be as a whole better pass rushers than last year's group. I would say that.
And how would you answer the question from Richard saying who's the speed linebacker?
Well, I think he plays. I think he likes to play a kid like Junior a little more. I think that's how they line him up. And then Barrett is the guy that's protected a little more. You know what I mean, Denny? In what they do, I think they try to protect both of them with the 3 technique and the 1 technique, and keep the guards off them so they can move and flow. But I think Barrett and the side he plays, they protect him a little more. They can play with a smaller kid. If that answers the question, is Junior? I think Junior Colson is. I think I think he's an NFL player. I think he's you see that kid in person, and I have. He's a put together athletic kid, and he can run. And so, you know, let's have a great year. He's got the size, you know, got the athletic ability, and
Yeah, and when you're an edge, I mean, some of like McGregor, you know, more if they were just if they didn't call them edge and they called them, you know, defensive ends or linebackers, you know, McGregor would be a defensive end, and I think you know Josiah Stewart would be that.
yeah, Denny, 40 years ago, they called, you know, probably 50 years ago, they called them defensive ends. Same thing, a 3-4 defense, they call those guys defensive ends. When I played, they called them outside linebackers. Within the last 10 years ago, they call them edge. Same guy, same responsibilities, just a different name for the same responsibilities. It went from defensive end to outside linebacker to edge.
Yeah, and I think Harrell could be, you know, like he would be a outside linebacker, but you know he is an edge.